Hi, this is Ed. I'm in San Diego, and thank you for being again on Global TV Talk Show.com, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net. So I launched Global TV Talk Show.com as a result of the pandemic crashing my live conference business, which I had for over 30 years, and producing meetings big and small, good and bad, but over 350. Europe, Latin America, some in Canada, mostly US. And so I couldn't do that anymore. The pandemic said, no, wipe out. So I did have an advertising business, and I have kept that going and used those contacts and my industry contacts, corporate and services, to be my guest free on Global TV Talk Show. And they came. So we have produced just under 560 broadcasts in 3 years. And according to Google Analytics, we've been able to generate, the shows have generated an audience of just under 220,000 audience views, as Google calls it. So all of that has enabled me to build up a new business. And we've had some sponsors from day one, thankfully. Some of them are still with us. And now we're getting more. So looks like we're going to have a profitable year. Part of the reason for that is having interesting people who have been in the mobility-related industry groups. And Larry Kruger is one of those guys. So welcome, Larry Kruger from Ottawa, Canada.
Great to be here, Ed.
Thank you for doing this. I'm looking at your LinkedIn bio. So I'm going to read a little bit here, and you can jump in anytime. I have been in the household goods moving business for over 40 years. I have progressed from a private transferee sales rep to sales management to the national sales trainer, progressing to director of sales, managing director of Allied International. I left the moving industry and founded one of the first online moving websites in North America. Most recently, McWilliams Mayflower in corporate business development, specializing in corporate relocation within Canada and cross-border, and managing some of the largest accounts. Specialties: professional salesperson responsible for several industry innovations in what is perceived to be a very basic business. CustomizedMoving.com. Larry, I started my business a little over 40 years ago in Boston as a magazine publisher. I published a magazine, I created and published a magazine for recruitment. And then relocation sprung from that. That was called Settling In, Greater Boston. And it was unique from a stylistic and marketing point of view. And we had plenty of advertising. And I had pretty good contacts throughout the HR recruitment field. And then I learned about relocation management. And that was a long time ago. And that was in 1976 in Boston. So I sold that and left town, went to LA. I wanted to be in more sunshine and also a booming market back then. So I took the connections that I had, and mainly in recruitment and some corporate, of course, and I learned how relocation industry works from some people. And I had a major advertiser by the name of Century 21 Real Estate. Big time, huge.
Yep.
And so there are other realtors that advertised in our magazine, but by far dominant was the Century 21 group. They've spent thousands of dollars in advertising and got me going in business. Because they did well with that, experiment in being a venture for me, because I didn't know what I was doing. I knew how to sell advertising, and I knew something about recruitment. And I grew up in Boston, so I was very familiar with it. That was it. So Century 21 introduced me to their founders and some star franchisees in LA, because they were based in LA. And so I got on a plane and went out to LA, and called on the Chamber of Commerce, called on the Economic Development Corporation, called on Century 21, and I had intros to corporate relocation management companies, including Home Equity. And I had a connection with Paramount Pictures and through family, but so I went there, of course. And then I went to a mixer at the Beverly Hills Chamber of Commerce, where some of those people hung out. I didn't know anything about the area. And Century 21 people at the time were in those yellow jackets. And
remember them well, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, they bought ads in my new book that I was going to call California Bound, Relocation Guide. Mm-hmm. Again, I knew nothing about the area. So I went to people and I say, I've got money, I'll pay you. You put the stories together. And they did. Mm-hmm. And so within a year, we launched California Bound Professional Relocation Guide, and it became quickly the official newcomer guide for the LA Chamber of Commerce. And they bought more than 100,000 copies at $10 each. And this is in 1980. 1980. Mm-hmm. Interest rates were in the teens. And the only people who could afford to buy a house were corporate transferees, wherein the companies, whether it's Paramount Pictures or Ernst & Young or Bank of America or Boeing, TRWs, other defense contractors, were all right here. Well, mm-hmm. right up there in LA. And so they all became customers. And because this is a unique product for their needs of aiding recruitment, customized, if you will. Mm-hmm. I'm just showing simpatico with what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so the guide, California Bound, became almost immediately the official newcomer guide of the LA Chamber. The board of directors of the LA Chamber were the CEOs or C-level of every major company in Southern California. They all used the magazine. For 12 years, we had a great run. Then the internet came along and taught me that how stupid I was for not preparing for that. And so I began doing conferences and I began doing international, and I wound down my print magazine business because I wasn't ready for the internet, all right? Yep. And so, anyway, I moved to San Diego, where I am now, in about 95. And I've been based here in San Diego, in downtown San Diego, for a long time since then. So that's a long story. So Customized is a great name. And .com, it's great. So say that name again better than I did.
Well, it's basically customizedmoving.com.
There we go.
Going down the same path you went down, if I may have been in the industry an awful long time, and I too have seen a massive switch in the way people absorb information or the way people, buy things. But in our industry, back in the day when folks were moving, it was a much more hands-on approach, a consultative sale in a home with a customer. And the customer experience is waning in our industry for what I see as the fact that we're not selling, if you will, a consultative sale and a customized service. So the way things get done, the way you get a consumer product that's kind of tailored to what you're doing, is to actually have a representative find out what your needs are and then go back and implement that inside the moving company. And what we've done is kind of through your same lines, we drifted away from the corporate market back and around about the time when you were putting your magazine out, and relocation management companies came into the scene, and they were very experienced professional salespeople, usually with large real estate organizations. And they positioned themselves as the go-to people, or the one-stop, if you will, magazine for the areas. And back then there was a bunch of, in the moving industry, there were a bunch of what were called corporate reps, corporate salespeople that would call on the Boeings and call on the, all the companies out there. They got pushed away basically, and the relocation management companies positioned themselves in that spot. So they were pushed out of the market. And then we had the pandemic, and people's need to have sort of the movers were never so busy in the past 2 years leading up to this year as they were in the history of the industry, maybe after the Second World War, possibly. But and with that, people didn't want people in their home. And then so video surveys became more and more prevalent, which they are today. But what we've done as an industry is we've constantly, in my opinion, constantly distanced ourselves from the customer. And with that, our ability to customize a service for that client. And what this is a kind of a retro approach to get back to the basics of what we do, and that is to customize a service around an individual's needs rather than just throw a price at widgets. So that's the gist of it.
So you handle as a broker, right? You find an agent to take care of stuff.
Yes, I don't want to be called as a broker. The way the program is set up is that,
well, a middleman. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because there's been a kind of distance between the professional sales, but what the site is being set up on a mover side of it, there's 3 prongs. There's a consumer service, there's a direct to industry service, and then there's a corporate service. But direct to the industry service, it's basically a cooperative marketing arm. So we go out, or I go out and try to drum up business, and then I have a group of professional safe providers that are interested in doing the moves. We don't, in a lot of the brokers, you don't see who they're using. With our service, we present them. They're in the forefront, not in the back end.
I like that approach. That's good.
Yeah, it's a more of a, it's better value for the mover because they're getting a good qualified lead, and we take less of a scrape, as we call it. We take less of a commission because there's marketing that goes on in the back end. So it's a unique product. It's not a brokerage. It's kind of a way for people to get access to a professional corporate salesperson for a fraction of the cost going out and hiring one. So that's on the
yeah. Okay. So would you utilize some of your most recent contacts? I don't want to name names. I'll let you do that. But there's some pretty famous names that you've been associated with.
Yeah, I've been around. Yeah, I've been around for a number of years. The product has just been launched beginning of February. So I did an intro. I think you picked up on that on LinkedIn. My next phase, I'm going direct to the real estate market, the Century 21s of the world and people like that. Because again, I think I'm going to be putting an article out later next week. But the fact of the matter is that if you can, as a realtor, come with a solution or an answer to a long distance move, I think it has an awful lot of value. If you can come in, there's a lot of worry. The brand is out there for recognition and visibility, but the actual person who's purchasing your service as a realtor, who's, having you list their home, they've got a lot of things on their mind, and the move is still one of the top 3 most stressful things in our lives. So this little product is basically a plug and play relocation product for any realtor. So a realtor can come in, even if the master franchisee doesn't have something in place like this, or if they're not a part of, a big company that has a Weichert or what have you, individual rep or individual realtor can basically plug this into his listing presentation or her listing presentation and offer the consumer not only the marketing and sale of the home, but also taking all that stress of the move out of their mind, off their plate, and just giving them that peace of mind that they're getting good information, good guidance, professional movers, and a safe environment, because the industry is full of bad actors. And if you go online, chances are you're going to find one. So it's an interesting service for the realtor, any realtor.
Okay, so now let's talk about your specialty in the past has been relocations, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the move piece. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, what's been happening because of the pandemic is that things get lost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you almost forget what your furniture looked like sometimes because it's so long. But that's not happening again now, is it? I mean,
No,
the delivery, the shipping has all come back to earth, right?
Yeah, it's starting to come back. It's actually dropped off. The problem 2 years ago is that we spent more time as an industry telling people why we couldn't move them than moving them. As I said, there was more business. Everybody was working from anywhere. So they were picking up and leaving California in droves and going to, Texas, wherever they might be going. In Canada, they were leaving the big metro Torontos and moving down east. So as an industry, we were basically swamped. We literally spent more time telling people why we couldn't do their business than why we could, or if we could. That's over now. The markets have all tightened up, and a lot of the people, a lot of the movers in the private sector are now standing there kind of flat-footed, saying, "Well, we've been doing everything online. We've been turning people. Where do we find business? How do we go back out and attract new customers?" And because I've talked about the distance, in my opinion, humble opinion, we've continued to distance ourselves from the customer. And with distance comes discount, because the only way you can compete is with price. And now everybody's sitting there just throwing prices at widgets and getting estimates done online and throwing in prices without selling the process, explaining to the client what they're going to do, customizing a program, and making sure that everything works right with the crews. So I think it's an interesting little opportunity to, if I were to launch this 2 years ago, I don't think anybody would have even looked at it, because nobody needed the business. Everybody was trying to, for lack of a better word, avoid it. But now I think we're going to be going into some pretty skinny times. And I think people are more and more, the only way you can grow, only way you can grow an intangible business, period, is through sales and marketing. You know that.
So intangible,
unless you buy somebody.
What do you say intangible when it's really hardcore touch and feel?
Well, you're buying a promise. So you're
a promise of delivery,
your promise of pickup, a promise of 3 people, a promise
of safe transit,
a promise we're not going to break anything. You, as a consumer, that's why the internet is so fraught with fraudsters and characters, because you can basically say whatever you want, make any promise you want, and if you're not reliable, you either don't show up, you have a terrible product, or you basically hold the goods for ransom. It happens all the time in Canada. There's no barriers of entry. So as a consumer going out to the interweb, you can find some really shady characters that look really professional. Unless you've been around for 40 plus years, it's very difficult to distinguish the good guys from the bad guys. And we kind of do that for the client, and at least put them in touch. That's not to say they're not going to break something, but they're not intentionally coming out to rob you, for instance. So it's a promise, and that's the only way in an intangible service, any service, that you can grow is through sales and marketing.
So let's talk about this idea, okay? And on your LinkedIn, and I see this very bright and It's a picture of bananas, yellow bananas. And the caption here, well, I assume you wrote this.
Yeah.
Is there anyone in the banana business that can explain why every fruit, vegetable, or anything with fins or feathers or fur, pricing has gone through the roof? And the humble banana, that's my Boston accent, banana stays stays at the same price. So that's the movie.
Yeah, it's true. It was surprising how much feedback I got from that. And there's all kinds of science around, apparently, because it doesn't need any packaging. It's picked, there's ample supplies. I actually was contacted by a lady who's about to do a documentary on that very thing, and is going to send me the documentary and link it onto that link. That's just a silly observation that I made one day, but it's there's a lot of something behind it. It's a supply chain and lack of packaging and, you know, abundance of the fruit. But take a look at the humble banana. It has not gone up in price.
Neither have my advertising prices.
Hey, there you go. Banana Ram.
Well, I wish you all the best. I think that's great. So so is the industry going to be friends with you?
I think some people may not be friends with me. I don't know. Yeah, see, on the corporate end of things, I'd be going after what's referred to as the lump sum market. I'm not a relocation company. You asked me you know, in the green room if I do any destination services. I'm not a relocation company. I'm strictly sticking to my knitting. And in my opinion, a lump sum is a COD move, a private transfer. Someone has got X amount of money. It's theirs to spend. And this product, this customized moving product, in my opinion, is just a better service. It's less expensive. You have a lot more information on where they should be spending their money and how. And the actual people doing the work are paying a much less commission. So it's good for them. It's fair, getting back to bananas and coffee and all that. It's fair wage pricing. So the actual mover is getting a better chunk of the money, and hopefully that increases their ability to provide a better service. And the consumer is getting a safe professional guidance and people doing the actual work. So I think it'll probably piss some people off, to be quite frank, but I think it's a free and open market. And if there's a better way of doing it, then I'll find the business. If it's not, I won't.
So I need to ask you, is there an app for your business?
No, it's mobile. It's mobile on on your phone. There's no problem with using it on a mobile device, but no, I don't have it.
Okay, the name of the company again is
Customizedmoving.com.
It's all one word, right?
All one word.
No spaces.
No space. Only in Canada right now, Ed, too, by the way. We're kind of kicking the flies off it and making sure it works properly, and then we have the ability to scale quickly.
Got it. So what's this? This is a little, after we come to a close here. Mm-hmm. There was some law or something, or misinformation or disinformation about a law passed in Canada that prevents non-Canadians from buying property.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that real?
Years. That's real. Yeah.
Now, is that to give local citizens a leg up on this?
Yes, it's supposed to be. I think a lot of it is political, just demonstrating that the government is doing something. A lot of our big cities, Vancouver and Toronto, a lot of foreign ownership, that they don't live in the home. They just basically buy it as an investment. And this is to kind of try to, from the federal government's mind, try and slow down that. So you have to actually be a Canadian citizen before you buy your home. So it's kicking up a bit of dust in the relo industry, because right. If you're moving up from San Diego and you're going to have trouble buying a home for at least 2 years, or you pay a fine. So the thought is that, the company would pay the fine for you or what have you. It's not a mega, I believe it's $10,000 or some such thing. I'm not sure in all the legalities, but yeah, it is in place right now.
Well, we're going to leave that for the lawyers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being my guest on Global TV Talk Show. I welcome you to come back someday.
I would love to, Ed. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Take care. Be well.
Bye now. Bye.
Thank you.